Hello everybody and welcome back inside the box for another episode of Gunpla Kitbash with me, Kukamatsu. In this episode we finish the main reshaping of the build. So, let's jump right in. Okay, we have a little bit more reshaping work to do before switching into the finishing stage of this build. And that is the skirt armor. In the original design that I did, I was going to make this one longer and make this one longer. I'm going to change that a little bit now that I've seen it all together. I'm going to keep these ones short as they are, so no changes to that. In regards to just making these longer, I was looking at the Curios build that I did, and I really like the front skirts of those. It's not just a big flat thing, there's a kind of detail on the front. So I thought I would do something similar to that, just to make this a bit more interesting than just having a long, big, flat panel there. So I've gone through my Kitbash parts and found some possible candidates for that. Basically, I'm just thinking of something that goes down sort of like that. These ones are actually part of this, I think. Yeah. I think if I went the full length, it would be too long, but something like that might be cool. I think I would trim off that detail there, fill in that, and then cut it back there. So that's a definite candidate. So let's put those as possibility. This one is almost too plain. By the time I cut the details off and trimmed it back, I could almost just put a piece of styrene there. So let's reject those. These ones I think are the same. It's just a little too plain. Not sure there's the right kind of detail in those ones. And these ones I think are just a little bit too wide. So I think these are the winner. Let's see what we can do. I think that is about the right length to that corner there. So maybe if I cut from that corner to that corner, and then I could fill it in depending on what the hole looks like. Let's take out the razor saw and see if we can do that. So this corner to this corner. That went pretty well. Basically go on there like that, maybe down a little bit like that. So I do want to trim off some of this other stuff. These guys for sure. Just a rough idea. I will do that properly with the file and the sanding blocks, but let's get an idea of it here. Let's use some sticky tack to put it on there temporarily. The thing that I'm just looking at here is that this top piece is on an angle and then that's flat. So just bringing it down a little bit I think is going to make an interesting shape there and make it make sense without it being too low. I think down here is actually going to be, just looks too tacked on down there. So I'll do it like that. I'll fill in that gray area and I'll fill in this space and that space so that it's kind of a solid thing sitting nice and flat against it. I think similar to the shoulder armor, it's going to be easier just to fill that in while it's mounted on this back piece, and I'll just paint that separately by hand after. So let's go ahead and fill that up. I'm going to fill that with a small piece of styrene just to make my life a little easier, so I don't have to do multiple passes with the glue, or at least not as many passes with the glue. So we'll get some glue in there. And file that down smooth. There we go, easy as that. And now let's start by gluing these two pieces together. Just to make my life easier, I'm going to trim out these little tabs here and then fill it with a new piece of styrene. Here we go, I'll just glue that in there and I'll be able to file it back to the right shape. Now it should hold the glue on that edge. And I'll just go ahead and backfill it here and fill these up as well. You can see it didn't fill that little slot there, so I'll give it one more Bit of glue. Okay, now we can go in with the big file and do some of the main shaping of this. Pretty quickly get it down to pretty good shape. Go in with the sanding block. I'll clean up these areas that I did with the knife quickly earlier. Fine, scraping like this does give a nice flat result. So then the idea will be just to glue it straight on there, like that. Just match that edge there. It looks to me like you still see a little bit of this seam line here, so I think I better fill that up. We'll do the same, just give it a little work with the file. Get rid of that seam line. Getting rid of the bulk of it. I don't want to do too much with the file, because then you end up having to solve all of the scratches from the file. You can spend more time doing that in this case than is worth it. So I'll go rather quickly to the sponge. Pretty simple to get rid of that seam line, which is great. I will do the rest of the sanding on this piece since I'm going to glue another one to it. I might as well do it now while it's easy. There we go. And that's going to go right there. I think I won't go right to that corner. I'll pull it down just a little bit. My hope is that I won't have to do any filling once I glue this on. That it'll just sit nicely on the surface. Might have to do a little sanding because the glue is going to be right on that edge, but we'll see. You know, I'm just thinking maybe the better thing to do is, because I only have those two edges to glue onto, maybe it would be better to have something in there, a little bit of styrene, so that there's more in the middle to glue. Let's try that. The other thing is I do want to cut off this little tab that comes through from the white side. I don't use these very often, but they're handy to have when you need them for a situation like this. These are cuticle cutters, and they're nice just for going in where you can't quite get in with a knife or whatever, and you can just trim that nice and flush. Okay, so we'll glue this in there like that. And that's a little bit thicker than needs to be, so I do have to file that down to make sure it's flush with the blue edges. There we go, that's looking better. So I think we're ready to glue. Now I can just put glue straight in the middle and not worry so much about getting it right to the edge on the blue part. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, overall it's looking pretty good. I'm not super happy with this pointy tip, so I think I might actually just chop that off right there. There we go, both sides done. And there we go, kind of a quick build this week, just finishing off the last little piece of the building process. And that means I would say the primary build of this project is done. Ready for cleanup and then some paint. Thank you very much for watching. That is the end of this week's episode. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you give me a like on the way out. It really helps the channel. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.